Hello, I'm Beau.
I am Don.
And before we get into anything else today, we want to thank our longtime sponsor and friend of the show, Ashley Luann Kay. She can be followed on Instagram at the Minnesota Nurse. Follow her for some fun nursing content there. And Don, I believe that you have a special treat for our listeners today, or our viewers.
Look under your chairs. There's nothing there. Unless, of course, like if there is
Unless there was something there before.
Who put this dwarf statue under my chair?
Even better.
I didn't put a dwarf statue under your chair. Get out of the house.
Even more amazing than us managing to put something under every listener's chair would be us removing something. Like, did you notice you're sitting a little lopsided? That dictionary that's been evening out your chair? It's ours now. We will know the meaning of disenfranchisement, and you'll just have to wonder for the rest of your life.
So last time we talked about Deadly Premonition 2.
Mm-hmm.
That was fresh off the pot, where I barely had time to register it, but I was excited that they finally managed to land that thing. They give it an ending that didn't piss me off.
And it was a sequel prequel.
Yeah.
So it does make sense to cover Deadly Premonition today.
Now, why was the sequel made? Because the first one was amazing. It just took a while for people to realize it.
I think it was I think that's a good example of a sequel being made simply because of fan demand.
Yeah.
And it's kind of odd because the fans, I believe, are pretty divided. Because until the moment Adam forced you to play this game through social pressure, you weren't excited about it at all.
Yeah, and it was like it was like Nier for me, because the ending of Nier was like, okay, humanity's dead. There's no sequel. Then a sequel gets announced. Like, what?
But humanity isn't in the sequel, so
yeah. I let that go because because the Emil mask reveal. That's like, okay, you're having fun. You're having fun. But yeah, with Deadly Premonition, I came into it in 2010, right after I left college. It was a bargain bin game, so it was perfect for me. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, there was a guy doing a Let's Play on Something Awful of just a straight
incredible Let's Play.
It was just a real dry, just like accept the game for what it is, and just roll with it.
And he also prefaced that Let's Play by comparing it to the fact that he was a huge Twin Peaks fan, and that's what appealed to him about this. And my favorite thing about Deadly Premonition, though, is swears up and down in interviews that he's never even seen Twin Peaks, and he does that simply to be an asshole. Like there's I love it. It's so glaringly obvious, but he makes that distinction to say absolutely. The other world is so Red Lodge that it hurt.
Yeah.
The whole premise of the game, a prom queen. It's fantastic. It's but to say that Deadly Premonition is a video game adaptation of Twin Peaks is to not to belittle Twin Peaks. I certainly one of my favorite shows of all time.
Yeah, is something else.
But to say that Deadly Premonition is just a video game adaptation of Twin Peaks is to rob Deadly Premonition of so very much.
It's my Skyrim, to be honest. It's everything I've wanted. It's weird. It's weird. It's open world. It's like it's constantly at war with the player.
It's distinct in video games because it is good just as much for its because usually with a video game people like it because its flaws are so charming and quirky, or it did everything that it wanted to do right. Deadly Premonition did both.
Yeah,
and it's beloved for both of them because honestly, on its face, it is a good game.
Yeah,
like it really is.
Yeah, as long as you just roll with it.
Right.
You just gotta get there's
if you ruined your playthrough, that's your fault.
To put this in context, there are I seek out Let's Plays of this, specifically blind runs. Tale of Two Cities. There are two groups of Let's Players that are both phenomenally more successful. One now defunct. The Best Friends. They had a great one because one of them knew what the game was. They knew exactly. What they were in for. The other one just assumed it was a game. Like, what is it's a horror game? What I'm not scared right now. Why was that chipmunk screaming monkey noises? Why was the main character talking on his cell phone, smoking a cigarette, lighting a cigarette, and writing emails and arguing with some guy about how Tom and Jerry are a functional, healthy, sadomasochist couple? And then throughout the course of the game, he gets that guy gets progressively more frustrated because he's trying to find. There's a part of the game where you need to find a quint. the younger son of a cowboy bar owner, and he's home at a very specific time of day and a very specific time of week. But between that time, he's not. He won't open the door. That's an even narrower time frame. So, you're an FBI.
The game doesn't tell you.
Look, you're an FBI agent. You're supposed to expect these kinds of stakeouts. But he's like trying to like get in. He's peering in through the window because that's a thing you can do for money. And he's just watching Quint angrily because he can't talk to him. And he's just getting progressively more angry. And then Quint hosts a dinner for other characters. And then his model freaks out and he starts waving his tray of hamburger around.
Steamed hams.
And then like the player gets frustrated to the 9th degree, but he's laughing because look at this. And eventually he gives up, and then he finds Quint on the road. But Quint isn't actually in a car. He's just motorboating an invisible car, and he won't talk to you about the quest.
So the best way to describe Deadly Premonition, I think, is what if you liked Sonic the Hedgehog 2006? What if you liked it? That's the question that Deadly Premonition answers. But Deadly Premonition, the theme of our podcast has always been discussing the narrative of the game.
Yeah.
And Deadly Premonition, underneath all these amazing quirks, does have a wildly fascinating story, to be honest.
Yeah.
It really does. So we have a very and you know what? I dare say that Francis York Morgan is more neurotic and interesting even than Dale Cooper.
Yeah.
I think he's even more of an enigmatic. And mind you, also David Lynch. Did you see part 2, the Return of Twin Peaks?
No.
David Lynch obviously played this game before he made that because it goes off the wall and weird in a way that is very Deadly Premonition. But so the game is about Francis York Morgan, who he has a horrible scar.
Yeah. Just to get, and when you're playing the game, to get the full sense of who he is, you need the side quests. You need to see what he finds cool.
Yes,
and the counterpart, that guy, that one guy on the Best Friends wound up loving the game because he did the side quests and he just understood that this game isn't going to play like other games.
Right.
The other guy just decided, I'm just going to do I'm just going to shoot through the story, and he gets frustrated, but he doesn't get the charm. And it's frustrating for the viewer because you know all that cool stuff he's just ignoring. Dude, you're treating this like a game. You're doing it wrong. Here, let me just kick in your office door because you have one. Let me just drive out to L.A. and show you how to play Deadly Premonition.
It's yeah, and
but yeah, starting the game, it's rain, dark. It's piss pouring rain.
It's dark.
Yeah, you're typing your emails. You're smoking your cigarettes. You're arguing with Tom and Jerry with your friend, and you know
who isn't there.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm pretty sure there is someone on the phone.
Oh, that's right.
He is talking on the phone with
He's not
someone
talking
else.
to Zach yet.
He just there's a real world person who can talk to York like Zach.
You're going.
That's scary.
And we don't ever find out who that is.
No, not in the sequel either.
And it's sort of shades of Diane. Diane, I'm coming to Twin Peaks. And you are on your way to a small forest town in the Pacific Northwest in the state of Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And
because you got a little baggie of seeds.
And those little puppies are taking you to
another town, the Boondocks again. Look a lot like hot tamales.
So, again, shades of Twin Peaks. You've worked a case similar before.
Yeah.
And now you're heading back out to explore another murder, a prom queen who had everything going for her in the town of
Greenvale.
In the town of Greenvale.
I hear the voice in Greenvale.
Was horrifically murdered. In fact, the game back up. Actually, the game starts off with an old man with his twin grandsons
or grandsons.
Grandsons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they come across a horrific murder.
Yeah, a very terrifying tree with a woman split open from sternum to abdomen. Mm-hmm. And there's a snake drooping around her. There's all kinds.
It comes out of her mouth, I think.
There's a lot of imagery there.
And it doesn't seem like she's nailed to the tree. It seems like she's fused to it.
Yeah.
And so, of course, these two children unfortunately see it before the old man.
Yeah, and they get really enraptured by it. She's
they
so
have
beautiful.
Yes, they have
She's
a very
like a
odd
goddess.
reaction to it. But the old man immediately recognizes
like,
the woman,
oh,
and
God.
he's so Francis York Morgan's on his way to save the day. But Don, he has a little bit of car trouble.
Yeah, he there's a guy in a raincoat carrying an axe behind him. As you do. Like some like timber work.
It's the Pacific Northwest. You got to earn money.
Okay. And oh well. It's it's like Silent Hill. You're just driving along, not really paying attention because you're talking about Tom and Jerry, and
writing an email and drinking coffee.
Whoops! Almost committed vehicular homicide. Got this guy against this guy in a raincoat. Swerve. You go down a steep embankment. There's some squirrels. Sorry, just hanging out. Just random jungle noises. You finally crash. Your car is flipped upside down. And York York pats himself off, pulls out a cigarette, but it's broken. Oh. What a trap. Dang it, Zach.
But you're no longer where you thought you were.
Yeah, you're just looking around. This doesn't just look like woods. There's like a red tinge, and off in the distance, you just hear some weird stuff. You're in a horror kind of thing right
and
now.
if this seems jarring to the player, it's because it was jarring for the developers as well, because there was no combat in the original concept of the game, and this was literally shoehorned into this game. And boy, can you tell. The combat in this game, Don, I think there's one word to describe it. It's not fun.
It's not fun.
It's
like you go into a generator shack and somebody has taken an axe to the generator. Which is important because this forest is dotted with electric fences. As if there is there's a T-Rex that they're trying to contain. And after you take the axe out and repair the generator, or take it apart from another generator that's been axed and repair it, then you hear something behind you, and to be honest, it is pretty creepy. A ghost woman in 50s dress.
Yes.
She bends over backwards and starts walking at you that way. Okay, that's creepy. And they always say things like, "Let me die, you." Yeah,
it's a little heavy-handed, but it worked at first.
Yeah, and then you, okay, you shoot them, and they die eventually. I do enjoy this. York says, "Zach, I'll let you take this one." Okay, voice in my head, you handle the combat, but if you get headshots, he congratulates Zach, the player, for their accuracy.
It's sort of the game telling you that the Zach that he's going to be communing with,
fantastic, headshot.
The Zach that he's going to be communing with this game is you.
Yeah,
you
are Zach.
So,
eventually you get your way out of the forest and you're out of the hell dimension. Although you can place connect calls to the FBI from hell to let them know that you're in hell. And get money. It's important to log your progress through hell.
And you come out in daytime on a highway much closer to Greenvale than when you left.
Yep. And you just start running towards the town because what else are you going to do? You don't have a skateboard.
Nope. So you're running towards town, and
you got smoker lungs. You can't do it forever.
The game's a little York's lack of conditioning gets a little annoying as you play the game.
You have to stop for breath 3 times, but eventually you cross a bridge over. You know what? There's a lot of effort that went into that water texture. Whatever. There's a bridge over a river. It's the Pacific Northwest. You get the idea. And there is a very attractive deputy named Emily. And you know she's attractive because the music cue snaps on
goes
her
that
face.
cheesy jazz.
And
because those 360 graphics aren't going to tell you how attractive she is.
York's like, well, maybe this isn't all bad. Maybe
it's
trip
so
to the boonies
cheesy,
isn't all bad.
And
I do like that York is kind of haughty and arrogant in Greenvale. It's because coming off of his experiences in Lucare, where he immediately fell in love with small town America, he realized that small town America sucks.
Whereas
so he goes back to being an elitist.
This is one of the most stark contrasts to Twin Peaks in the game because Dale Cooper, of course, falls in love with Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
But the whole point of the show of Twin Peaks is there's this horrific, seedy underground in this town, and Dale Cooper, even though he faces it head on, remains blissfully ignorant of it the whole time. Whereas Cooper's already, York has already gone through this. He realizes, so he's not going to let these people fool him.
You can't trust a small town.
No. He's a city slicker through and through. You know what you're getting in the city,
Look,
by God.
I gave Lucari a chance, and it failed me. So another guy shows up. The sheriff. I'm the sheriff, George Woodman.
And he does not want you there.
Nope.
No deputy Harry here.
And you're like, detective. I'm FBI Special Agent Francis York Morgan. He flashes a badge. Everyone gets confused. Every time they see your badge, you get confused. They get confused. Just call me York. Okay, whatever. And York's like, don't worry. I'm just here to advise. I'm not gonna step on anyone's toes. And like after the sheriff leaves, like, okay, well, we're gonna meet at the sheriff's department. Don't be late. And Emily arranges to get your car towed and fixed and all that. But York says, looks like we're not in the dark. We're not in ancient times. We're in the Middle Ages at least, and we just met the monarch, Zach.
Oh, also something to note for the viewers: when he does talk to Zach, he has a little ritual.
Always, he always puts his fingers like a finger gun to his temple. So I think Emily takes you to your hotel so you can sleep.
Yeah, you go to the I can't remember what it's called.
It's a huge hotel, though.
It's like the Great Northern from Twin Peaks, honestly. But you go and you go immediately to bed, I believe.
Yeah, pretty much immediately to sleep. Then you wake up, and the hotel is pretty much deserted apart from you. Mm-hmm. There's no one else there except Patty, the hotel manager, who is just this stooped, nice old lady who insists on making you breakfast. And
this is one of the best scenes in the game because they're seated as far away as possible.
Yeah, she's like, Patty, I'm very peculiar. Like they're holding a conversation, and there's a loud kazoo soundtrack,
and it's going progressively louder. And the
characters, I can't hear you.
The characters are seemingly aware of the soundtrack because they progressively start talking over the same. It's an incredible scene. It really is.
Speak up, York.
It's extremely avant-garde. It's
like York, Patty, can you sit a little closer? Oh, I still love my husband, honey. It's so expertly bizarre. Now, at this point, you have not gone to the that weird red room, right? No, you have. Okay. Well, I think you might have when you first. I don't know,
because there's all sorts of. We'll get to it.
Every time you pause, you're gonna see. I think it might have been right at the very beginning of the game.
Yeah, because you get to see all these little artifacts and stuff like that.
Yeah, and those two kids from that found the body are there as angels. Whatever.
And they teach you how to avoid the monsters, which is you hold your breath.
Yeah, that's actually a younger version of yourself in pajamas that does that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Anyway, you talk with Patty, and the coffee
is good.
Is very good.
You see the words FK
in the coffee.
Knew I could count on it. Never fails. So you got your first clue.
York uses coffee to give him his first clue in all of his investigations.
Yeah.
The creamer, right? It wasn't sugar. It was creamer. Well, because he's not a real man. He doesn't drink black. He needs creamer because he's not going to get the clue without the creamer, damn it. So it spells out FK. And what, doggone it, wouldn't you know it? FK.
In the coffee. Now, every time Patty does you ask Patty to do make you coffee, she does this thing where she rolls up her sleeves like she's about to beat your ass. Like, oh, somebody's mouthing.
Take our coffee pretty seriously here in Greenville, Mr. City Slicker.
Anyway, Patty says that the hotel is huge because back in the day, Greenville used to be a big mining or logging community.
Yes.
Not so much anymore. It's fallen on hard times. And, the 50s, it's still lived in. But its heyday was in the 50s, and it's been downhill ever since.
Yes.
So you walk outside, and Sheriff has given you a replacement car, a cop car with keys just on the hood. And York says, "Well, they have low crime here, I guess, because no one stole a cop car."
And arguably a mechanic worse than combat in this game, driving.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's horrible.
Okay, you're going to need to watch your gas and your condition of your car. And if your condition of the car gets too much, you're going to need to drive to a gas station where you can get a sexy car wash with a dry rag from the Dixie chick. Or, depending on the time of day, her husband, who is like a greasy, fat biker who will just spit on your car and also restore your condition.
That's how they get the framework done.
Yeah.
Body work.
Honestly, you want the fat, greasy biker because you can bribe him for hints. About side quests and things like that.
Okay, cool.
Like, I need I got a secret, but I'll only tell it to my friend Benjamin Franklin.
Jesus, that's how much he charges?
Yeah. $100. I'll also spit on your car. You play your cards right.
So
Anyway, you need to go to the
You need to go to the
sheriff's
sheriff's
department.
department.
And first thing you see in the sheriff's department is like a very excitable young man.
an excellent
Thomas.
cook.
Thomas.
Yeah, Thomas.
He says, "Oh, he's hey, you want to review the case files, right? Well, I lost the key. You're gonna need to find the flying squirrel key. Is this the right key? No, that's chipmunk. That's a Siberian fighting squirrel. That's not the right key either. Oh,
It's so
you found the key.
unbelievably frustrating, but satisfying.
Yeah, because you finally found the right key and you learned a lot of cool facts about rodents. So you finally make it to the meeting room with the case files. And Sheriff George is just holding court over his kingdom, going over like, okay, so the victim was the most beautiful girl in town.
I can't remember her name.
I can't remember her name either.
It's almost not important.
She's a goddess.
Yeah.
She's a goddess. She's beautiful. Of course, when you actually look at her character model, she's not very model. She's not modeled very much. She's got a really long face.
Yeah.
Admittedly, she's dead when you see her, but then you see flashbacks of her alive, and you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
There's a lot of girls in this game. All of them are probably better modeled.
Not a very
She was so beautiful.
Laura Palmer. This chick is not. So
She just looks really unnerving. There's a lot of I don't know what it is about. Yeah, she's got a really long face. I don't know. Anyway, so we're gonna go from the sheriff's department to the hospital for the autopsy.
yes.
But first, Thomas has brought biscuits, of his own cooking.
He's an excellent cook.
York demands that the investigation be put on hold because he needs to talk about these biscuits. They're amazing. And when he finds out that Thomas is cooking these biscuits, he demands that Thomas give up being in law enforcement so he can cook biscuits full time. And anytime you go to the sheriff's department throughout the course of the game, you can tell him to shut up and get in the kitchen and make those biscuits.
So
Oh, you're investigating a murder? I don't care. Biscuit time. It's biscuit butter and jelly time.
episode of SpongeBob. It's country time, but it's biscuit time.
Okay, so you can unfortunately for the player, York demands to drive, even though George says he will drive because he knows the town. No, York is driving, and of course, while you're driving, you're going to be talking. You can't be carrying on random conversations. And one thing I love about Super Great Friend from Something Awful's Let's Play, whenever he starts driving with these people, he makes sure to look at them and get into car accidents just to make it perfectly awkward. Like Emily says, well, yeah, I never really knew the victim. I came here, I only got to town a few years back, and, I never really went to school here. And George is talking about how everyone loved her, how she was like the apple of everyone's eye, and all the while you're just like swerving all over the road, driving through fences, like looking for agent honor, little upgrades that the FBI is paying you for all this property damage. But eventually you do make it to the hospital.
After terrorizing the town.
Yeah, you're just...
you like Genghis Khan cutting a swath through this town.
like you just like crash through the lobby and then you get out. And there is a secretary or a nurse, rather, like on station, only nurse that you really see.
Mm-hmm.
Huge hospital, but apparently there's just like there's a staff of two. There's the nurse who was reading a novel about a murder mystery in a small town in the Pacific Northwest, suddenly upset by a horrifying murder, and an FBI special agent is coming to investigate. And York says, "Oh, that's fun. That's good. I'm glad you have reading skills, you country bumpkin." Oh, Lucare. It will always. I'm recontextualizing it right now.
So we get to the autopsy.
You need to find Usha, and she gives you a room, his room. He's going to meet you there, take you down to the mortuary for the autopsy, but he's not in his room. There's a computer with a message. Can you solve my riddle, FBI special agent? And then George is like, "Oh, I'm gonna find him and beat his ass right now," because in all seriousness, yeah.
Right.
Like,
this is a murder investigation. This is an autopsy. Every second is destroying evidence.
Wait until his colonoscopy to make him find you this way. Yeah, but no, like York says, "Oh, there's no need for that. I know what he wants." And Emily's like, "What could this room's puzzle possibly be?" While there are chess posters everywhere. It's framed perfectly. This is one of those 10 out of 10 moments in the game where you know something special is going on, because Emily's like, "What could it be, Agent Jorgen?" And she's like gesturing towards the chess.
Like perfectly.
So you beat his chess move, and then like he prints you out like the computer prints out like your directions. Or no, there's a card key somehow.
Yeah,
you get it, and you go down to the mortuary, and Usha's like, "You solved my riddle. You solved my riddle, detective." And Sheriff George, of course, actually gets up like, "Dude, what the fuck?"
Right,
dude, there's a dead girl right here. You're just hanging
decomposing.
out.
Like,
yeah, she's okay. And then York's like, "Look, I enjoyed that little game, but you've angered the monarch." Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Like
immediate rapport with this guy.
Like Usha is like, is there like a Japanese or an anime like the black nerd, because that's Usha.
Yeah,
he's a very young doctor too. That's actually a plot point.
Yep, he's a very young doctor, and he's the very nerdy character of the game.
Yeah, and
if he wasn't an anime, he would have the swirly glasses that obscure his eyes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
The sort of like the Sailor Moon character and things of that nature.
Yeah, and the nurse, of course, has a huge crush on him. You can help bring them together, I think, at some point.
But more importantly, you got a girl to cut up.
Oh, yeah. Actually, she's already been cut up, courtesy of Usha. Of course, Usha has like a bunch of theories about what happened to this girl, because and he's doing it in a really stylish way, kind of the same way the sheriff in the last game did. Every time he'd always stylize every she was cut open, and her tongue's been cut out. But York says, "Leave the profiling to the professionals." Someone bit off her tongue. This was a kiss of death, and she died painfully aware of what was happening to her. Like, because Usha thought, okay, well, this is all post-mortem. No, she knew everything was going on. And also, he points out that there are tear marks where her mascara ran, and it was raining out at the murder site. Or outside, so she had to have been killed inside. Now, this is where York's special skills really come into play, and I'm not talking about the psychic sense. Emily, what time did it stop raining last night? Oh, I don't know. It must have been around midnight. I was watching a movie. What movie?
I love it.
American Werewolf in London, directed by John Landis, 1986. Yes, right around the time Bad Moon Rising was playing on the credits. This girl was being murdered and transported to the crime scene.
York sort of has a connection to popular culture.
Popular culture of a while back.
Right.
Of the VHS era.
Yes. Specifically,
he learned everything he knew from watching movies.
So, With this, we have gained an important clue.
Yeah. You've also found a red seed in her mouth, in her throat, lodged in her throat.
Yep.
And at that moment, York assumes direct control over this investigation. And
because it matches the investigations he's had before.
He just starts throwing out these baggies of red seeds from all these crimes from across the United States. This is now under the jurisdiction of the FBI. George, I'm not hearing it. George,
of course, reacts to this the way you think he would.
Yeah, but he does bow down eventually. Because, this is big. This isn't just a small town murder anymore. So you need to go to the murder, like the crime scene itself. Now, throughout the course of the game, just have an assumption you're going to be hanging out with a punk rocker grocery clerk.
I love him. I love him. He's constantly doing this.
He's rockabilly.
Rockabilly.
And he's going to be telling you, hey, FBI, you want to hear a ghost story? Dude, you know I do. I've got nothing better to do. Meanwhile, there's a timer in the top right saying, get to the crime scene before this hour, or you will have to wait until tomorrow, and George will be angry. I got time. I got time. Is there a specific time that I should go to this ghost story location to see a reenactment, a spiritual reenactment, because there might be spiritual machine guns that I can unlock. Or you could try to hunt down this kid for his wrench that is the ultimate weapon.
Oh, yeah.
Or you can unlock the rockabilly guy's guitar, which is the actual ultimate weapon. But
sky's the limit.
Yeah. Anyway, you're unlocking cars. You're stealing cars from people because the junk dealer and you have a relationship. The junk dealer says, "Yeah, your speed boost saved my life in Vietnam because I got diarrhea."
Honestly, at this point, I really think next week's podcast should be Deadly Premonition side quests.
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea.
So let's just skip. Okay, crime scene. You're at the red tree in the woods, and those two kids. Uzziah or Isaiah or whatever.
They're still there.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre. This is a crime scene.
Apparently, they just always walk around this area. Like the grandpa says, oh, they like it out here. And, the body's gone. So I guess these kids...
They like seeing it anyway.
Honestly, they don't seem all that bothered by all this. And York is talking to these kids, so what can you tell me about the crime scene? Oh, she was so beautiful. She was like a goddess. Yes, Emily, get these kids out of here. Men have work to do. So you get George is doing his own crime scene reconstruction about what's going on here, and they're like, yeah, shut up, George. I'm on the scene. Okay, so there's several footprints here. And you can see knee indentations where the killer knelt before the goddess, as if the victim, as if praying or asking forgiveness. Also, there's a stiletto heel here. We gotta find Miss Stiletto Heel. And there also is, I think, a piece of torn cloth, as if from a raincoat.
A raincoat.
Raincoat. That's interesting because, like George says, well, there is that. A lot of people around town don't go out when it rains. That's actually a big point because if the murder happened during rainfall, that narrows down who is going to be out and about. Because no one around town goes out when it rains. Because there's an old legend about a raincoat killer from 50 years ago. And, well, it's just, people are no one really believes it, but, it's superstition. There's no reason to go outside in the rain anyway.
Right.
So, I actually can't remember why you go to the lumber mill.
You go to that mansion before the lumber mill, don't you?
Oh, I think you're right.
Because you're following the stiletto heel clue, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, you found the stiletto heel already.
Oh, that's true. But do you go to that? You go to that mansion for those rich folks' mansion before you go to the lumber mill, don't you?
Yeah. You probably. Oh, yeah.
There's
Becky.
a town meeting somewhere too.
Becky, there's a friend, the friend of the victim. Actually, I think I should have mapped this out. This is a Xenogear situation. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, there's a town meeting. You call a town meeting, and York, of course, holds out this badge for no one to see because they're all back in the auditorium.
You meet the industrialist.
Yeah. Let's just... These is not going to be chronological. These are things that happen. Figure it out.
This is Deadly Premonition, a memoir.
Yeah. Anyway, you remember the whole assembly thing where York gets everyone together in the town so you can meet everyone. And he holds out like, I'm FBI Special Agent Francis York Morgan. And then no one can see, like, everyone's squinting. Like,
yeah.
What's going on? Anyway, it seems somebody may be trying to copycat this raincoat killer you idiots think is real. So I recommend you stay at home. Oh, and by the way, I don't see Becky in the audience here tonight. It's as if she's
puzzling.
not. Yeah, it's like she's not leaving her house for some reason, and she's the best friend of the victim. Might have to go bother the victim's mother. I might have to bother some people. Oh, Gravedigger, I see you out there. Hey, you're a cool character. Sure, you're not secretly a ghost. Anybody else I should be meeting here? Oh, there's a gun. There's an arms dealer. I'm not here for that. Rockabilly, my man. Okay, George, we're done. And then you go to a diner. There is you meet the victim's mother. There's side quests involved. She's her diary was talking about Becky and a bunch of friends doing some stuff. Oh, stuff, red seeds, drugs. Yeah. Well, she's a country girl. What's she gonna do? At some point, you're in a diner and you meet the mysterious capitalist. Oh God, what was his name? The mysterious capitalist is such a cool name.
Yeah, I never knew his real name, but he
Mr.
doesn't
Stewart.
speak.
Mr. Stewart, Harry Stewart.
He doesn't speak. His assistant does, and it's always in rhyme.
He's a skull mask,
Yep.
a gas mask.
Because he's a mysterious capitalist.
Yeah, like he wanders in while you're like talking to Emily over your food. I'm not sure if this is the meal where you talk.
Yes,
about
you're talking about your punk rock background.
Yeah, like
and
she
Emily,
says, I was fat in high school and it really messed me up for my social life. Well, I was punk rocker.
He was a hardcore punk rocker,
and then she thinks that's much more funny than being slightly overweight.
and
he immediately regrets letting that out.
Yes, he's not. He's not
just
happy
sitting
about
there
that.
all pissy. Then the guy in a wheelchair, like Mr. Stewart and his assistant, go up, and then like the diner owner says, "Oh, the usual Mr. Stewart? Yes, some cereal and some jelly and some toast. The sinner's sandwich." Someone's trying to atone for something. And then Mr. Stewart's writing haikus or something about.
It's always rhyming.
He's always rhyming about.
But his assistant talks. He never does.
He always whispers to his assistant,
Yeah.
like Mr. Stewart says, "You should try it," and you try it. Oh my God! I'll have this and nothing but this. So help me God!
I can't believe it.
And everyone's jaw drops, and the scene lingers for a weird amount of time.
A very weird amount of time.
Just like a Looney Tunes. Yeah, I love it. Anyway, I think you go out to I think Becky's house to check up on her because she's friends with the victim. She won't talk to you though. Her boyfriend Quint, who is very hard to track down apparently. He has apparently been running red seeds into town in his motorcycle, but he just thinks of them as a health supplement. And York knows, okay, this kid's not actually doing anything wrong. He's just, there's something else. There's something else at work. Someone else is bringing this stuff in. And then there is that lumberyard. Well, let's just address the lumberyard in the room.
Because it's an important part of the story.
Yeah, it's a gameplay segment, so it's easy to forget. It's the weak part of the narrative.
And I believe the lumberyard is the mythological source of the Raincoat Killer, isn't it?
No, not.
There's a ghost story about the lumberyard. Though,
there is,
that the clerk tells you.
Oh yeah, there is.
That's how you get the quest, isn't it?
I don't remember.
Anyway,
there's a bunch of things.
You go to the lumberyard. You do one of the horrible gameplay segments.
There is a raincoat killer who looks like a Jawa, a man-sized Jawa with an axe who will look for you and you hide in a locker and hold your breath. While he wanders out and he'll slam his axe at things and I'll go. Eventually, you get into some Scooby-Doo antics with him. Eventually, you find the crime scene,
yes,
where the murder actually happened, and you have a psychic vision of an upside-down peace symbol on the back of the killer. So immediately, York runs outside of the detectives, or the deputies, Deputy Emily and Sheriff George, and says, I need to see both of your backs right now. Because the killer has an upside-down peace symbol on his back. When you see Emily's, Emily is, George is the first, you can't see Emily's back, she's a woman, which is a good point. But Emily just says, dude, let's just get this over with.
Fine, yeah.
And it does that weird music while they're looking at this woman's back, and York's just smoking the whole time. I'm confident you are not the raincoat killer who was just in there throwing axes at me. But George has something on his back. He's scarred, literally top to bottom, whipped like to the bone.
Yeah.
There's no discernible pattern. He's just messed up. And York is satisfied he's not the raincoat killer from that. And he asks about the scars, and he says, it's like your Zach. It's a private affair. Fair enough.
It's very fair.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, at some point, you do have to go back to Becky's house. Because something has gone down there. You get like a call.
That's right. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
You get like a call from Thomas. Something has gone down at Becky's house. Quint's there Quint called, I think. Quint called because something's wrong with Becky.
Mm-hmm.
You go into Becky's house, and in the bathroom, she is strung up like the Hannibal Lecter, the guard in Hannibal Lecter, up in like a shower. It's hard to say exactly what happened.
Yeah,
there's like a wire looped around her. It's really it's
communism killed her.
Yeah, it's like well, that was just a working man stringing up a corpse for the right to work. To stop the right to work, because the right to work for less is not the right to work. But anyway,
we're serious about that, by the way.
Yeah, this is a Saw situation. There's some a lot of work went into orchestrating this.
Yeah,
and George immediately brings out wire cutters to try to cut her down because she's still alive. And York says, "Don't." She's trying to say something. She has no tongue, and she's spitting up red seeds, and she's obviously in pain. Don't disturb the crime scene.
I love how unapologetically bad of a person that York is.
Now, to his credit, this turns out to have been a good advice, because when George cuts the wire, the whole contraption comes loose and tears her apart.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And she pretty much just dies right then and there, and everyone's really messed up about it. And it's one of those moments where George starts to soften towards York because he failed there. Okay, so we know Becky and the first victim, were good friends. There were but there are some other pretty girls in town, and we need
to stop this from happening to another pretty girl.
You know what? That's pretty much our lead. And the story is going to keep taking us to them. And one of them, just happens to be the museum administrator.
I remember this.
A curator of an art museum.
Yep.
And York goes up there, and by this time in the story, I'm usually been doing side quests for a while, and I haven't washed my suit in weeks. So I've got I am a Nurgling at this point. I am a full-fledged soldier of Nurgle. I've got I am Typhus, the plague bearer, with hordes of flies just flying around me. I'm driving down the highway at 60 miles per hour. There's flies around my car. They just know me. and the whole time I've got George and Emily just sitting there. There's flies buzzing throughout the car because I haven't washed. And I talked to Diane, and she's all business and professional, and she's very upfront about how she just sleeps with everyone she wants, which is just about anyone, because she's looking for a new thrill in this small town, and York's playing the cool cat. About how and she says, I could sleep with you if you want. And then he cuts to York. He's unshaved, covered in flies, and saying, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to decline for professional reasons.
I love this game.
So it's a dead end. She's not going to talk.
Yeah.
There's some puzzles you have to do, but you leave, and then as Emily and George are like, well, is that it? No, we're going to wait. We're going to smoke for 5 hours and wait for the... We're going to wait.
Because much like Metal Gear Solid 5, you pass time by smoking.
Yeah, and we're going to wait until something happens, and then we go back in. And you meet George. I'm sorry. There's the husband of the diner owner, the woman at the diner. Mm-hmm. He has been spending time with Diane. You see him. Mm-hmm. You see him with Diane. Oh, and that leads you off on the tangent of hunting him down, trying to figure out his whereabouts. And I think you put George or Thomas on watching him duty while you do other things. And eventually Thomas says, I lost him. He's heading towards Diane. So the cock block alarm happens where York and everyone pile into the car and start speeding down the highway. But what happened, like at some point it's like pouring rain and like York steers accidentally into a semi's path, and then like it cuts to like a Looney Tunes, like you do a close up on everyone's face as they realize they're about to spin out into a semi, but eventually you manage to he got away from us, guys. Like, you're alive, but damn it, this diner, this chef in a hoodie just outwitted the FBI. So you pull up significantly after he has already been there. And you see Diane strung up, crucified on that red tree like sculpture
in the museum. Yeah,
yeah, and it is once again held up by wires and stuff like that. I think George is. I can't remember exactly what happens, but like you're trying to find a way to get up there. To get her down, I think George cuts a wire again because that works so well, and the whole thing's threatening to topple over. And as she's about to fall, York jumps off the stairs and catches her in midair and successfully saves Diane. And then, George spreads out his hands and goes and catches you both. So you both survive. Unfortunately, the statue is still toppling. And Diane is back up on her feet, and she's just talking about her museum in a drug-fueled haze. Like, she's spitting up red seeds and just, like, even though she doesn't have a tongue anymore, she's still giving her spiel in her own little world.
It's actually a pretty weird scene.
Yeah, it's really unnerving because you see that statue tottering in the background, and it falls down and impales her. So it's the second attractive young girl in this town we've seen murdered in front of us.
The third murdered overall.
Yeah, third murdered overall. Yeah, we weren't. Well, most of us probably weren't at the first one.
Right.
Anyway, it's a very brutal death, but she seems to really kind of accept it in a weird way. And then something weird happens. Earlier in the story, you have met Forrest Kaysen, a jolly old farmer kind of guy, in your hotel. He stays at your hotel because he stays in this town because he likes it.
Actually, I wasn't going to... I thought my memory was a little hazy, so I didn't mention it earlier, but you actually meet Forrest Kaysen almost immediately after FK appears in the coffee. Mm. York even makes a note of it when you meet him.
Yeah, yeah. And he's got a Dalmatian dog, and he sells trees. Little red saplings.
Mm-hmm. He's a tree merchant.
Yeah, and he sells them all over the world. He's always on the road. You know, it's plays hell in your family life, but you know he really likes it.
Super happy guy.
He gets to see America, and he's just a really nice guy. And he loves Patty.
Yep, he gets to see the USA in a Chevrolet.
Yep, and he gives you a sapling as a sample, and he pulls another one out of his pocket. So he's always got them. So his model has achieved equilibrium. Anyway, that Dalmatian that you met with him back in the hotel. It's here at this murder scene, and happy music starts playing because there's a Dalmatian on screen. There's an impaled dead woman and a Dalmatian, so you know it equals out.
Right. Even though Dalmatians are horrifically aggressive in their old age.
And York says, I think he wants us to follow him. So he wanders away from the fresh murder scene.
The happy music's still playing.
The happy music is playing, and there is a trap door, and someone is saying, "Hey, let me out! Let me out!" You open the door. Forrest Kaysen pops out. Forrest Kaysen. My God. You and Diane, huh? Also, notably, the diner guy in the gray hoodie, he shows up, but unlike Forrest Kaysen, he was not locked up downstairs.
No.
So he could not have been the one to put all this together. And he says as much. Forrest Kaysen just says, look, it gets lonely on the roads, and Diane's interesting to talk to, if you know what I mean. Anyway, yeah. You take the guy in the gray hoodie, the diner, the diner woman's husband, as I will work on to jail because he is a very strong suspect at this point.
Yes, he wasn't locked in a basement. He showed up immediately after everything went down.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
pretty suspicious.
Yeah, like that, and you could. One of the things about the side quests that you could do is you can follow people around, learn their routines, what they do. Like George Woodman has this thing where he'll stand outside in a field during the middle of a rainstorm for some reason. He also has a sick mom you're not allowed to see. There's also this graveyard guy who has you collect bones, and turns out they're his bones because he's a ghost.
I actually really like that. Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Because that Dalmatian keeps stealing his bones. Anyway, there is, as yet, one more attractive woman in this town, but...
Just one more?
Apart from Emily, but she's not a redhead. It's Thomas's sister at the bar. But, you know, there's something else. You got to talk to Mr. Stewart. He issued you, like, when you feel the time is right, Mr. FBI, you should come talk to me. So you go to this, like, secret underground bunker of a mysterious capitalist and says... And he starts talking to you finally about like how this town loses its mind every time there's a rainstorm. And how...
Which is funny because it's in the Pacific Northwest. It's going to be like every day.
Yeah, and that's why he wears the gas mask. Also, the raincoat killer, that actually happened. Like, you need to find the police files from the initial incident. Ah, but those have been lost. No, they've been hidden. Oh. Well, who has access to those files? Thomas. Where's Thomas? We have to find Thomas. Thomas isn't here. I have no biscuit connection. So George is now like, God dang it, Thomas. You think you know a guy.
I just get the image of him throwing his cowboy hat down when he says that. God dang it.
Dadgummit.
Dadgummit. Hey, let's go catch him.
He could be anywhere. He speaks a dozen languages.
He blends in anywhere he goes. He's Jason Bourne.
He's got friends in every town from here to Timbuktu. With any luck, he's killing the last red-headed girl in town already. Anyway, York has another coffee moment where he's like, look, he lifts his coffee mug and there is a ring around a brochure for a waterfall nearby, and he says, "This is it. This is where he hid the files." A waterfall? Emily's like, you want to go fishing at a waterfall when we're looking for a rogue law enforcement member who is suspected of multiple murders. And George agrees with York. You know, fishing sounds fun. And besides, waterfalls are a known source of power.
He's mentioned this power thing a couple times.
He likes the power of this town.
Yeah.
The power of his position. He likes to work out. Mm-hmm. Like one of his side quests is you find a barbell for him.
He even has the handlebar mustache, like the classic.
Oh, yeah.
Like
he is a very man's man.
Yeah, this guy listens exclusively to Metallica.
Yeah. So you go fishing and you fish a briefcase with the original Raincoat Killer files in it because of course you do, because the coffee never lies.
And they're undamaged amazingly.
And presumably, you know, like York just like looks at Emily and just slowly. Like flings the files out, like make it rain. Look at all this evidence. And you
can I get you a cup of coffee?
All right, now you two do whatever it is you cops do. I'm going to go talk to the mysterious capitalist with these files. That's evidence. You can't just give it to a private citizen. Watch me. I'm sorry. Who has jurisdiction here? It's FBI. Going mysterious capitalist it is. Ah, yes, this makes sense. Let me tell you a story of a man named shit. I
like how he knew all this all along. He just made you go get the files.
Yeah, he wants the files. Mm-hmm. Then you have an interesting gameplay segment where he no, you don't yet. He tells you about his past. He was present for the massacre back in the original Raincoat Killer. He was driving a 50s truck. It's a sepia tone, green veil. And suddenly, everyone starts killing each other. And it's like...
the mysterious capitalist is driving the truck.
Yeah, he's a young man at this point. This is before he was in a wheelchair with a gas mask.
Before his fame and fortune.
Yeah, and he realizes, everyone's like, it's a free-for-all on Smash. Final destination, all items on. Like, there's people being run through with pitchforks. There's people, like, flipping cars. But in the middle of all this, there is a level 9 fox.
Yeah! Toria! Fire!
It's a raincoat, man in a raincoat with an axe, and he is just owning everyone who comes after him and bellowing at the heavens. And he takes, and young Mr. Stewart manages, gets overcome by the gas as well and attacks the Raincoat Man, and he gets slapped away. Turns out the Raincoat Man was his father.
Stewart's father.
Yeah. Who, he eventually dies, but we'll learn more about this from his point of view later on. Anyway, at some point...
But the Raincoat Killer didn't do all the killings. Everyone was killing each other. He just was the most successful.
He was the most successful and the most iconic because he was wearing a raincoat. Anyway, that's the story of the Raincoat Killer legend. And there is a legend of if you get enough people to ingest seeds and then kill them in a certain way, you can attain immortality. And that is the legend of the Raincoat Killer. That's what this new guy is trying to create. So while York is trying to track down the last victim, who is, I can't remember her name, it's Thomas's sister. At some point, he gets kidnapped.
York
gets kidnapped, yes. And Emily has to follow the Dalmatian around with Forrest Kaysen because Dalmatian can sniff York out because of his cigarettes.
Right.
And it's a very extended scene. You're going to walk around all over town.
As Emily.
Yeah. And then you go to like a clock tower. You go up to the top of the clock tower, and Thomas is dressed in a dress. And you can he's very clearly put on an affectation of being like the uniform of the goddesses we've seen so far. Red dress, dolled up. And he's been talking to York about how he really likes York, but this is something he has to do. Like you have like interspersed moments of York tied up, talking to Thomas, talking about how he could easily just take his sister and run, but Thomas says, "I can't run. I have, everything's perfect in this town until she came, Emily. I had G all to myself." And then Emily shows up to fight him, and he gets really angry with her. Everything was perfect until you showed up, Emily. So you have a gunfight with this guy who keeps throwing like oh god, what was it? It's a chain. The word's there. I used it's a winch. It's winches. It's with the hook winch. The hook winches. It's a clock tower with a bunch of empty hook winches. Apparently, he's throwing them at you. You keep shooting him, and eventually, I'm calling Thomas him because he doesn't specify otherwise.
Right.
At any point in the game.
Of course.
And anyway, eventually Thomas loses his balance and impales his face on one of those chain winches and dies. Emily finds York. And together they find Thomas's sister, who is dying, and she has undergone the ritual apparently. She's got red seeds everywhere, and she sees Emily. She also gets angry. She forces red seeds down Emily's throat.
Oh wow!
And Emily immediately got ODs on this stuff. She passes out. Like, oh, this is bad. Like the woman is dead, but her last act was to make force feed Emily those red seeds. Yeah, and York freaks out, takes Emily, and tells Forrest Kaysen get her to a hospital to have her stomach pumped. He has to go confront the real killer, G. George Woodman, the sheriff. It was him all along.
It's funny because George Woodman is the worst. Like, there was no mystery almost. Like,
if you look at his license plate
Or
for his
was there?
car, it says he's the one.
really?
Yeah.
So let's explore further, though, because we still got game, right, Don?
Yeah.
We still got game.
We got a lot of game. Yeah.
So we go and we're headed to George Woodman. We're headed to G.
We're going to confront George.
By the way, in Laura Palmer's diary in Twin Peaks, she referred to the killer as L.
Yes.
Because it turned out to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fame of Death Note fame. I am justice. Anyway, of course, Sheriff George has
prepared
for you. Yeah, I have prepared a place for you. Welcome, Moon and Star. Why have you come unprepared? So you fight your way through a ghostly version of the sheriff's department, eventually arriving on the roof. And the sky has opened up. It's like red swirling vortex. And George has taken off his police uniform to reveal like a biker leather vest with a cut open circle on his back. And he's like chowing down on red seeds. And that's causing the scar patterns to form on his back.
Into
you see that upside down
peace sign.
And he explains that that's like a gift from his mother. She would always whip him with branches from a special red tree. And, like later on in life, he was hunting some deer that were eating these red seeds on the ground from this red tree that grows around the cemetery. And, every time he shot one of those deer, they never died. If those deer had eaten those red seeds, you could fill them full of bullets. They won't stop. And then George says, York, deer can be erotic creatures. Those slender legs, those powerful hips. And the whole time, York is just sitting there smoking, like, yeah, George, whatever. And then, like, my mother gave me this mark of power on my back. Oh, George, you've got it all wrong. That's the mark of child abuse. I've killed my 5 sacrifices, and now I shall attain immortality. I will become a god. Let me clear that up for you, George. It's a crazy story. You committed multiple homicides, so you could become a first-degree murderer. Shut it, York. Yes. York flicks his cigarette at George, and he, like, axes it in halfway through. Rock music starts playing.
Like the most horrible, cheesy rock.
So there you are. FBI Special Agent Francis York Morgan shooting at an axe-wielding maniac sheriff.
Hopped up on red seeds.
Yep. And after you shoot him a few times, he pulls out 2 handfuls of red seeds and says, it's too late. All their sacrifices have given me immortality. He chows down and becomes Blanca. Like, he is just straight up Blanca.
Yep.
And there's actually you could shoot a scar on his face or the scar on his back. Scar on his back is a lot easier. And if you have the guitar, you could do a lot of damage by hitting him. It's dangerous, but it gets to the final boss. I'm sorry, not the final boss.
We'll get to that.
You defeat George Woodman in his Blanca form, and he raises his axe into the air and gets struck by lightning. And then the hell dimension clears, and it's just George Woodman, fried, standing upright on the sheriff's department roof. Okay, well, that's crazy. So York passes out, and he gets brought to the hospital. And he's like, hey, what happened? Well, some crazy things, apparently. Anyway, George is dead. And, well, we found you passed out. Forrest Kaysen brought you here, actually. Oh, where's Emily? Oh, I don't know. Thought she was I thought she was doing work. Forrest Kaysen didn't bring her here? No. Was he supposed to? Oh, Zach, this investigation's not over. So you go to George Woodman's house. And you find his mom, his dead mom. She's not sick, apparently. She's it's psycho. It's a skeleton with a red tree growing out of an eye socket, and a diary talking about a nice man who brought red trees and told him about the legend. And I can't remember exactly what sparks everything, but here's all the revelations. At some point, York remembers. York remembers. Or has a psychic vision of the Raincoat Killer from the original Raincoat Killer, from the Raincoat Killer's perspective. And Amazing Grace plays over it because it's in public domain. They don't have to pay for it. So as the Raincoat Killer, you're killing your way across Greenvale, going up to the clock tower. Mm-hmm. And when you get to the clock tower, you see Forrest Kaysen in an army outfit with a bunch of army guys like billowing out purple smoke from those red seeds to test them on the townspeople. So Forrest Kaysen got the federal government to test red seeds, the effects of red seeds on a small town in America as a kind of weird conspiracy. But this is from 50 years ago. So Forrest Kaysen hasn't changed. He hasn't aged. And that's one big thing. And so I think Forrest Kaysen leaves you like an invitation at somewhere. Like it might have been in Woodman's house. I'm sorry. I should have brought notes.
It's okay. It matches the game.
Yeah,
it matches the game.
You go to an auditorium for the final stage. The stage is set.
Literally.
Yeah. You see Emily with a blanket over. She's sitting in the middle of the stage, and Forrest Kaysen is just yucking it up. And York is just asking Emily to get up and walk towards him. She says she can't. The blanket comes off, and there is a red tree sprouting from her abdomen. And York freaks out and has a flashback. Like, this is like the whole time Forrest is like, ladies and gentlemen, it's like a surrealistic painting. And like for some reason, Forrest Kaysen seems to think he's already won. I mean, he is a god, so why not? But York has a vision of himself. Like, we know from York's past that his father killed his mother. Mm-hmm. His father was an FBI special agent. He killed his mom. He saw this happen, and it freaked him out. But understandably, he was a kid. He saw it happen. And then the last words of... we see the actual context of that. His mom had that same red tree growing out of her, and she is asking his dad to kill her. And Forrest Kaysen was apparently there too. Because of course he was. Well, his dad does not, in fact, kill his mom. He fails. And this causes the tree to rapidly grow and kill her horribly. Mm-hmm. At which point, his dad notices that you, or the main character, is watching and says there are some things in this world that have to be purged for the betterment of all. Okay, remember that. Okay, Zach? And then he shoots himself. He does the motion that York has been doing every time he talks to Zach. He puts his gun to his temple and taps it and shoots. And at that moment, York and Zach became two. Zach is his actual name. When people look at his name, it's Francis Zach Morgan.
That's why it's confusing when he's showing people his ID.
And he's insisting on being called York because he is York. Zach couldn't handle it. His hair went white from the shock, and he gets locked away in the Red Room, which is where an extra-dimensional zone where you go to smoke to pass time.
And look at little knickknacks and stuff.
Yeah. But at this point, York has been covering for you in the real world and being your imaginary friend to help you through this. But at that point, Zach comes back. You are Zach. You know, you have self-actualized. You remember everything. And York is saying, I'm sorry, Zach. You're going to have to do this yourself. So you have an extended boss fight with a fat... Emily's trying to beg you to kill her. You can't. Mm. If you refuse to try, the game ends. But if you shoot, you intentionally miss because you just can't do it.
Yeah.
Emily does does something really crazy. He just yanks the tree out, which kills her, but kills the tree. And and this incites Zach to finally confront Forrest Kaysen. And he becomes like a clown monster. He like inflates himself like
Beetlejuice when he did the
yeah. I was thinking more like the villain from Spawn,
the Violator.
Violator, yeah. Like he like bounces through the auditorium as you shoot him, and then he throws you into hell with himself, and he grows into a large version of the amiable farmer man.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a little weak spot that you have to hit, and it's a doll version of himself. And after you destroy that enough, he's like, how could you cause me pain? Forrest, you're one crazy guy. And then Zach turns and walks towards the camera while smoking, while a giant farmer explodes into giblets behind him, and the hell dimension collapses. At which point he picks up Emily and to take her to the hospital or the morgue or whatever.
Something.
And then you have your tearful goodbyes with everyone, like, okay, guys, I solved the murder. It was technically George Woodman, but at the same time, there was a lot more going on. Not at all related to any television series. And as you're leaving, Zach realizes York's not in his head anymore. Like he can't hear him. He knows he's there, but he doesn't. Like he's laid that part of him beside him. And as he's leaving town in a limo appropriated by the mysterious capitalist as thanks for saving his town from the great sin, he sees Emily in the woods in the red dress, like all the other goddesses. The sacrifices, and he orders the limo to pull over. You go out into the wood, and you see Emily and Thomas in a red dress, and all the other girls of the town, the victims that you failed to save, in red dresses, and they're all like, and then like the twins are like, and York is like, wow, or Zach says, I'm sorry, wow, those twins are right. There really are goddesses in this town. And then York pops out. Like basically, like, yep, they're with me. Oh, hey, Zach, they're with me. You always were better with the women.
Oh my God.
And then they all go into the afterlife, and Zach continues his journey outside of town, and you see an ominous-looking Dalmatian with that doll in his mouth, and that's like the one real sequel hook that you get from the original.
But that's not explored in Deadly Premonition 2.
Not really, no. I mean, Forrest Kaysen does come back.
Yes.
But, yeah. Anyway, in the director's cut, the director's cut adds scenes to this in which an elderly Zach is telling this to his granddaughter. And at the end of this, like his granddaughter comes back. The last scene in the director's cut is so amazing. She's knocking on the door because she's like Zach told her to go get ready for bed, and then she comes back to say goodnight to him. He's gone, and Zach, a young Zach, walks back into that diner in Greenvale and sees York at the counter and says, "Hey, it's been a while. You know, I understand there's some crazy things going down in New Orleans. I was wondering if maybe you wanted to check it out." Like, dude, I've got nothing better going. So the elderly Zach teleports away from his home, and the last things you hear, like, it goes back to the main menu, and you hear the voiceovers of the granddaughter and Zach's daughter, like having a conversation. Mom, Grandpa's gone. And this presumably takes place after Deadly Premonition 2 is. So at some point after fighting Forrest Kaysen for the last time and being cured of cancer by his imaginary friend and Skyping with the heiress of a sugar plantation, he has a family, a granddaughter, and then teleports to New Orleans for yet more adventures. So
stay tuned for Deadly Premonition 3.
At this point, this train's going too fast. I'm not jumping off. Okay, well, yeah. So it's a little rough. Our podcast was a little rough. You know what? This game's a little rough.
That's what I was thinking.
If you've got problems with it,
if this seemed like a jumbled mess, it's because this game is a jumbled mess.
It's like Rick and Morty. You got to be high IQ to yell at someone and a cashier. You got to be really intelligent to yell at a cashier about men's rights.
That's probably the best, the best copy pasta of all time. To be fair, you need a certain.
You need a very IQ to understand. To understand this.
No, isn't it? You need a very firm understanding of conceptual physics or something. It's something ridiculous. And the original post is beautiful. The guy was being completely unironic.
Yeah,
he was in a serious argument. It's no, Deadly Premonition, and like most of the games we talk about, I would still recommend playing it, even after all this.
It's fun. I liked it. I like looking at everyone's windows and figuring out what they're doing and doing with their lives. You know?
I strongly encourage us to do a side quest episode.
Yeah, we can do that.
I really think
point.
that's. But guys, for now, we got a bunch of links in the description we want you to check out.
Yeah.
But for now, I think that's it from us. We will see you next week, and until then.
Make a swing.
Make a swing.